this is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and we are working on row C of the Dear Jane quilt, and we're doing the quilting in row C. I go through each of the blocks, show you how I mark them, and then show you my quilting. Hopefully to maybe inspire you if you want to start quilting your own, if you haven't taken it to a long arm, but it is a big quilt. It does take a lot of quilting. The nice thing is you're working with 4.5-inch blocks as you're going. So that's the nice thing about this one. Anyway, I am using the Dear Jane add-on for EQ8, and it does give you the quilting lines that Dear Jane did in her quilt. And that's what I'm trying to mimic in my quilt. I do have one rule, is where I applique something, I'm not going to quilt through my applique. I will quilt around it. Other than that, I've been staying pretty true to it. There's a couple of curves that I don't think I can freehand very well, so I didn't do that, but like I said, for the most part, I'm following her quilting. All right, so to get started, you need to open the Dear Jane Quilting Center blocks, and I've opened the master. It does tell you in the instructions to make a copy. I've been working with the master. I haven't had any issues. I'm not modifying it, so it's not a problem. But that's the file that you need to open for the center blocks. And then over here, I'm just using the sketchbook. It tells you what block you're on. So since we're on block C, I am going to start going through all these till I get to C1. And I'm just, like I said, using the sketchbook, and I'm just going from block to block, looking at it, marking it as I see it, or as I need to mark my own quilt. Like this one, these outer diamonds were applique for me, so I didn't do that line in that applique. And another one was the outer circle here. I didn't think I could make that shape, so I just stitched in the ditch around the circle, and then I don't have that seam, so I just did real close stitching next to all of my applique. So this was, I didn't do the inside here, the straight line. That's inside my applique. Also, this is applique, these diamonds on the outside. So you get my gist here, what I'm doing. So that's where you find all the quilting. And like I said, I'm just using the sketchbook. I'm looking at it, and then I'm going over to my blocks and I'm marking them. So I had someone question that I'm using a friction pen, which erases with heat. I've always used those. I've erased them with my heat. They've never come back on me. And I did live in Michigan too, so it's up to you. People have said that the markings can come back. I've never had that problem, so I am going to continue to use a friction pen. You can use any type of marking tool if you even want to mark it. You could just look at the pattern and then quilt it, but I am marking it for video purposes also. And when I start and stop quilting, I use a lock stitch on my machine. I've always done that. I had someone ask me about that also. I don't usually submit into quilt shows, but I have. And we did have a quilt. My mom and I did this quilt, and this was in the 2015 AQS in Grand Rapids. And then AQS put it in their calendar for that month. And I did lock stitch on the back of that one. So it's up to you what you want to do, but that's what I'm doing when I'm quilting. So my mom has this hanging at her house, so if I can get it back, I will actually show it off one of these days. It's pretty cool. What is it, about 3 feet by 3 feet? And give the whole backstory on that. But it was in the 2015 AQS Quilt Art Engagement, or 2016, sorry, 2016 Quilt Art Engagement Calendar. So that's what I'm doing. Since someone questioned it, I wanted to address it. All right, so it's pretty easy this week. I'm getting better at filming this, I think. It's been hard to figure that out, But I think I'm getting better at filming this and making it easier for you to see what I'm doing. And hopefully as I go along, because I've got way more rows and borders to do, hopefully I will figure that out too. But anyway, hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to see more of this. I have a Dear Jane playlist on my YouTube channel for making all the blocks. And let's get started quilting. All right, this week we're doing row C, 1 through 13. And just like row B, I'm going to be sending my machine through this way. So I just have this in the neck of my machine right now. So to get started on C1, we have got some lines in the center. So we've got these diagonal lines. And if you're new, in the last few videos, I show you a little more of my pen and my whole quilting system, and I will have links to that in the description down below to those videos. And then we have these. Whoops, I got off a little. And there. And then we have, just like last time, in a lot of the squares, we have the squares here in the center of our pieces here. There we go. This time I think I'm just going to eyeball it instead of going all the way to the edge. And there we go. That is C drawn out. All right, C1 I should say. C2. C2 actually has lines that go through all of these points, like here, 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 there. I'm not going to do my applique, like I said. So what I think I'll do is just do these lines. So I'm going to start in here, and they go all the way to the edge like this. Then we'll go to the next one, and I'm using the points as my guide. This one is basically from corner to corner. Looks like they're about every ½ inch or so. And then out here I am going to go around my applique. So I'll have these center lines and then around my applique for this one. All right, C3. All right, we have X's from corner to corner. This one's going to be hard to see when I get to it. And then from here to here to here to here, it's going to be an X. Or not an X, a square. So we're starting in the middle and coming across. Like that, and then we're doing the same thing up top. All right, so an X and then a square on the outer one and on the inner one. We are doing a square in the outer portion of this. Let's see if I can figure this one out. So these are the longer strips, and we have the shorter strips. What we're going to do is draw in, so we have a seam right here, a square on the outside of our inner white square, and we're going to come down to these points and then draw around there. which would be about 1/4 of an inch, not quite. All right, so here's the first one, second one. I don't know that I'm a fan of this, but I'll do it. All right, so we have a square out here that's inside our seam allowance. I think what I'll do is it kind of comes in right here to this seam and comes up and then back down. So maybe I'll just use 1/4 of an inch. Hello! 1/4 of an inch on this side, and then just do that. So from this seam up to there. I mean, you can pick a different measurement if you want. It doesn't have to be 1/4 of an inch, but it kind of gives you an idea of how I'm trying to figure out what I'm seeing in the quilting. Let's mark about 1/2 an inch down this seam on each side. And we're just I'm gonna come kind of from the corner here up to that mark. Back down to this corner and do that all the way around. All right, it took a while to draw, but I don't think it'll take too long to quilt. So I appliqued out here and I didn't do anything over here, and it wants us to come out and around, and I don't know that I'll be able to plan that very well. So what we're going to do is we are doing quilting in the center of all of our pie shapes here. And then I think what I'll do is just stitch around these closely instead of doing up and around. I just don't think I can figure that out that well. So I'm just going to stitch around my applique there. All right, this is C6. I haven't been saying them, but this is C6. And you basically want to do some petals like from the center, like this around each one, like that. I know it's very hard to see. We want to do that all the way around. Just kind of want to eyeball it and bring it up between your petals and meet in the center. And you'll see it when I quilt it. We're going to have wide petals around these. I've done this kind of quilting several times, so boy, I think I am running out of ink. Come out to this one. And then they do have a line going down the center of these. I'm going to draw it in, but I'll see how it looks when I'm done with it. So wide petals like this, and then on the outside, and then a line vertical and horizontal here. Okay, so C7. All right, again, she wants us to go right through my applique. I am not going to do that. I'm going to start here though with this inner square, and we are going to go right down the center of our diamonds and make a square. And then we're going to do an X. That is very hard to see. I need to get my laser hooked up for this one. Actually, what we're going to do is an X, and then just line it up with these points and do a plus sign in the middle. So we'll have 8 lines. Then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to stitch right around here, and then I'm going to line it up with the points, and I will do stitching like that on each side. And I'm also lining it up with the line I drew over there. Alright, so got all the lines in here that I can't see, but I will once I stitch it, and then the square, and then the lines out here and around our applique. Alright, C8. So a bunch of lines in the center. We got that. And this. And then our X. And then lines out here, so half, half, and half. So I think I'll do a 1/2 inch from this seam right here. And then from this line, and then this line. Alright, there we go. Ooh, I remember this one. I think it's called Jane's Tears. So basically, like this, and then another one, and then another one. And she wants to, again, go inside the applique, and I'm not going to do that. So I am just kind of freehanding this. I don't know how well you can see it, but when I start quilting it, you'll see it. Okay. And then, like I said, I'm going to quilt around my applique. Okay, C10 has squares in the outer, square in this, and a square in that, and then I'll show you what we're doing after that. So there's my outer square. Now I got to do my inner square. All right, lastly, let's do the center square. Okay, so from here, we're going to just do one set of diagonals. So from this corner I just drew to this corner. And then there's one along this point. So I'm going to get that drawn. And there's one halfway in between. And that is 1 inch, so let's go 1/2 inch. Alright, there we go. This inner square has these lines in it. Alright, C11, I am not going to quilt like she says. I am just going to go around my applique here because she has me quilting inside the applique. She does have a circle in here. I don't know how well I would do that, so I'm going to skip that. And then she does have quilting in the middle of this outer border. And that's all I'm going to draw on this, and then I will just quilt around my applique. Alright, C12 is pretty simple. We are going to go down on the diagonal. And then we want to find the middle of each of these squares, and that is 1.5 inches. So 3/4 of an inch will be the middle. And then we're going to draw a line from each one of those. That's all there is to this one. She must have been tired that day. We're going through the points like this all the way. So we created a square in there. Now we need to just go through the center. And I know you can't see that, but just inside. So we'll have all the way through these and then just inside there. And then we're going to do a square out here. 1/8 of an inch is what I'm choosing. It looks to be about the middle. And I'm just going from vertical line to vertical line. And then we're moving out here. So quarter, and a quarter. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch. And do 3 of them. Actually, I'm going to do more. That's more than she has, but I like the way it looks. And it's in the same vein as hers, so. Alright. Lines here. Lines here. A square inside here. And then the lines out here. So I have 4 in these corners and 5 in those corners. Alright, let's get to quilting this. Alright, I'm back on C1. And we have the square on the outside, the inside, and then these diagonal pieces. So I am going to start over this in this corner because I need to do the outside of this block. And that's for me, that's my preference. Alright, I'm going to come down here, go into the pink seam, and then go up and follow it around. Okay, I'm going to come back down to this pink seam, over to the white, down to the white seam, and then go in this square. I don't think I can use that right now. Okay, come back to the white seam, then come down here, and now I can do my X's and pluses. Stitch in the ditch, over to the next one. Stitch in the ditch, over to the next one. And then stitch in the ditch to the last one. Now I'm going to work my way back out by stitching in the ditch again. So let's see. I'm going to come here, I'm going to come down here, there's a seam here, there's a seam, and out. And on to the next one. Get situated, getting a little more fabric. I can now put this back here. And let's head over. I think the first thing I'll do is go around my applique and then start my lines and finish with the applique. So there's a seam right here I'm going to stitch through, go around my applique, and come back. around my applique and then come back out the seam right here. We'll head on over to this one. So this one was the squares here and then the X's. So I think what I'll do is I'll come down this red seam and then do my X, or I mean my square. Okay, now I'm going to come down through seams. I'm going to go across here and come down to my next square. And let's head back up and do our corners. Now I need to go to the other corner. There we go. Alright, now we got this one. I think I'll start on the outside and work my way in. So I'm going to come down this seam here. Go out around the whole thing. And I'm going to come down this middle seam and do the same thing. And now we need to do the inside square. I'm not too sure about this one. You can come inside. Okay, need to work my way back out now that I'm done. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's a seam right here. I'll come down there. I'm going to go around my circle. And do my lines. Now I'm going to go around my applique. Okay, now I need to come back out. Go through seams, head to the next block. What was this block? Oh, this was the big echoing. So let's go down here. Start here. Whew, I need some slack down here. Okay, now we can do there we go. I've done that quilting type so many times. Not saying I'm good at it, but I know it. Okay, let's head to the next block. I think I'm going to go around my applique, come over to my line, stitch in the ditch to my next line, and then come over to the other corner. Okay, let's go back down our line. find a seam and head in and do our square. Okay. This is in my way. I need to move it. Get some more slack and go through a seam to get to all right. That's done. Use our seams to get out. Head over to this one. All right, so this one has the vertical or the lines here in the corner, and then we've got our lines in the center. I think I'll go around and do my outside lines. Alright, so I'm going to come back, and there's a corner right here where my line starts. So okay, that's the quilting for that one. So let's take this seam right to the edge. This one's going to be interesting. I don't know how this I think it's called Jane's Tears. I don't remember many blocks, but I do remember that one. Alright, so let me get situated here. Let's head down. Alright, there's my first side. That's pretty cool looking. It's looking better than I thought it would. I think what I'll do is connect these lines to get some stitching there in the center. Go back down this one. I didn't draw that in, but just gonna kind of do my best. I don't know why I lock stitched. Anyway, okay, so now, there we go. Now we need to get back out. Head to the next one. Squares and lines. Squares, square, square, lines. So, let's head down a seam allowance. Okay, that one's done, so let's head down another seam allowance. There we go, we met that one. Let's head down this seam allowance. Do this square. And do our line. Now, find your seam allowances and head out. Okay, this one is the square around the outside, and then I was gonna go around my applique. So, seam will be right here. Oh, guess what? I ran out of bobbin. Okay, I put new bobbin thread in, and I tested the stitching, and we're good to go. So, now I need to find a seam and head into my square. Okay, I'm going to try to find a seam to get to my, there we go, my applique. That's what I was trying to say. I get to concentrate so hard I don't even talk. Okay, I'm actually going to put a lock stitch in here, and then go to the center. Put a lock stitch in over here. And another lock stitch in the end. All right. That one's done. No, this one's the easy one. So I have the square here and then the X. So I don't think I can turn it real well. It's getting to that point. I'm just going to start in this corner, put a lock stitch in, and head on down. Hit the seam allowance and come over to the square. Okay, and we got to do the other diagonal. And that's it. That's all there is for that one. Stitch in the pitch, head over to this one. I'm going to do these outside lines. Okay, outside lines are done. I need to come over here. I have got a square out here and then the lines on the inside. So I have diagonal lines I gotta do. There we go. That's it. So I've got that done, so I'm gonna just lock stitch right there. Phew-wee, I'm sweating a little bit. Okay, I can now iron. I'm just gonna start from this end. Iron out my lines. Looks so much better when the lines are ironed out. I love it. Again, not perfect, but it's mine. It's gonna be mine, all mine. They can say who pieced it, and I can say me, and they can say who quilted it, and I can say me. I can't say I designed it, but that's okay. A lot of people have this on their bucket list. It is kind of the ultimate sampler. It's so fun to go back. You build these blocks, then you pull them out and you put them together and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then now you're quilting them and it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that one. It is just like walking down memory lane. Let me know if you're quilting your own. A lot of people aren't, and I don't blame them. Don't blame them at all. My mom wants to quilt her own, but she's really been second guessing doing it. And I don't blame her either. But sometimes you just need to see someone else do it. And be like, oh, okay. It's not too hard. You're just breaking it down into little 4.5-inch sections. All right, there you go. Week 3. We're on C. This was the C squares in the Dear Jane quilt block. And I hope I'm helping you out, or at least giving you some inspiration or just some entertainment. You can be like, yeah, no thank you, I am watching you. Phew. No thank you, I am watching you and I do not want to do that. Or, oh my gosh, I think I could do that. So, I have a list of everything I am utilizing down below. I did not tell you at the beginning, I do have this mat under here. I can't remember it, but it is down below, the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. But it really helps it slide nice on here so that you're not having to strain so hard. And then my suspension system over here, I've got a link to that too. I love it. It just keeps part of the quilt from falling over the edge, or you're trying to fight with it. So I'm only having to worry about this half of the quilt. All right, I appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to see the rest of this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.